What's going on, guys? Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. So obviously, if you're a shareholder of a Chinese company today, you'll probably be saying, how can I have a fantastic day? My shares are down 12% just today, right? So I'm speaking about Alibaba specifically in this video, but all across the board, Chinese companies have been absolutely smacked, right? So I just want to talk about why you can still have a fantastic day and look over the facts and then make some decisions, right? So obviously, none of this is financial advice, right? But at the bottom, Alibaba was down around 20% today, right? So what we're going to talk about what caused this, as well as what are some of my opinions, right? So shares of Chinese companies listed in the US dropped sharply Monday after Beijing tightened President Xi Jinping's grip on power, souring investor sentiment for non-state driven companies, right? So the Invesco Golden Dragon China ETF, wow, that is a lot to pronounce, which tracks the Nasdaq Goldman Dragon China Index, Jesus, plunged 14.5% to hit its lowest level since 2009. The ETF slumped more than 20% at one point in Monday. So the index holds 65 companies whose common stocks are publicly traded in the US and the majority of business is conducted in China, right? So you can see it's not just a Alibaba specific thing, right? In fact, after this bottom, Alibaba actually recovered 8% on the day, right? So incredibly volatile day, right? So tech giant Alibaba was down more than 12% after earlier dropping over 19% to a 52-week low, right? So they'll talk to you about other stocks dropping lower as well. So I'm not going to go through that. So the moves come after Xi Jinping paved the way for unprecedented third term as leader, right? So if you don't know, in China, obviously they only are supposed to sit for 2 terms and then you're out, right? But basically Xi Jinping pulled Putin and rewrote the laws, and now he can sit basically permanently, right? As long as he can hold on to power and also hold on to the people around him, right? So the core circle of power in the ruling Communist China Party of China with loyalists, right? So basically he replaced all the people who are in power with his allies, right? So under Xi's leadership, China has implemented a raft of policy that has tightened regulation on the tech sector in areas from data protection to governing the ways in which algorithm can be used, right? So I think this part has already been passed in the past already, right? It's already been implemented, right? So one thing I do want to say that it is a bad thing, right? That someone can just come in and basically sit for life. And basically, if their actions are good or bad, it doesn't matter. Nobody can vote them out. It is a bad thing, right? And especially when they surround themselves with loyalists rather than people who get the job done, right? Because loyalists, sometimes they don't have the skills that it takes to get the job done, right? But I'm not very familiar with all their party members, so I'm not going to say anything, right? But ultimately, I thought that Xi Jinping already ruled with an iron fist, right? So I didn't really think that this mattered so much, right? So to me, this seemed like a bit of a market overreaction, right? So meanwhile, Xi has stuck to the strict zero COVID policy, which has seen cities including the mega financial hub of Shanghai locked down this year, even as most of the world reopened their economies, right? So this is one thing to be said, because they thought, a lot of people maybe thought that after the election, basically they will open it up. It's just to win the election, right? But apparently they haven't opened it up, and apparently they are planning to continue with all these policies, right? So stock based in the world's second largest market are uninvestable again. Bernstein sales trading desk Mark Skiliski said in a note on Monday, right? So I think this has been heard over and over again, that China is uninvestable, right? So in regards to some of my moves and also some of my opinions, right? First of all, I'll share my moves. So I bought some call options around the $61 mark sort of thing. So yeah, just to give you guys some idea of what I'm doing. So there is a bit of gain on those call options already. And also some of my opinions on these Chinese stocks, right, is that, so when something bad happens to the US, let's say, for example, maybe the interest rates are hiked or something like that. Obviously, I know that it will affect Alibaba's fundamental value as well, right? Because the risk-free rate going up also affects everything on the spectrum, right? But you can see that sometimes just an interest rate hike will cause Alibaba to fall 5%, which is, to me, the market becoming irrational, right? And also, another thought on the politics is that I thought people already understood that Xi Jinping ruled with the iron fist, and also that other people's opinion didn't matter as much as what he thinks, right? So whatever he says goes, right? And the last thing is also, again, I thought people love certainty, right? So I this move is a bit perplexing to me as well, right? Because I thought people like a certain government, and I thought people already understood that Xi Jinping was already going to be chairman for life, basically, right? And that is why I'm really perplexed by this downward move 20% in a day, right? So I can be perplexed or whatever, or I can take some action and buy some more shares, right? So in this case, I bought some options, right? But now we have to look at some facts, right? And conflicting statement is someone from JP Morgan, right? Marco Kolanovich of JP Morgan believes the sell-off in Chinese stocks is disconnected from fundamentals, presenting a buying opportunity, right? So now you have to decide, right? Is your thesis that BABA is going to zero, or is your thesis that BABA is going lower, right? Because if it's going lower, right, I need to show you some numbers, then maybe you can make your own decisions, right? So if you're thinking it's going to zero because of the VIE structure, because of the Chinese government, or they're going to get nationalized, that is a one camp, right? Because that is zero. So no matter how low the price that you buy, it doesn't matter, right? But even you see that I managed to time it quite well, and entry at like around 91, right? And yet I'm down like a staggering 30%, right? So I don't think this has been a good year for Chinese investors at all, right? But if we look at the fundamentals, right, we can see that, let me just show you the stock price from 2015 October, right? Until now, it's flat, right? So basically, you can see that from 2015 until now, it's flat. So if we take a look at the fundamentals, right? So if your revenue goes from 12 billion to 127 billion, right? And your stock price is flat, right? So that is like either a golden opportunity or something is incredibly wrong there, right? So in my opinion, I look at it as a golden opportunity, right? Because you can see actually they're still growing until here, then they decline, right? Because decline because of regulation, lockdowns, or whatever the reason is, right? So you can see that total revenues are up tenfold, right? And their stock price is flat, right? So you can see, revenue doesn't really matter, right? Because it's just revenue, right? So if we take a look at the cash flow, it's up also double, right? And this double is at a worst case scenario, probably, because you can see in the years past, it's actually around 9.8 billion and 22.9 billion at its highest, right? So this is when the stock was trading high somewhere around here, right? So you can see that. So then ask yourself, is this 5 billion going to go to zero, or what's going to happen to it? Ask yourself that. Or is it going to revert back to maybe 22 billion, or even some more normal numbers like 15 billion, right? Which is in 2019, they've already achieved this, right? So ask yourself whether the core infrastructure has been set in, or did fundamentally they remove the infrastructure, or did BABA grow smaller as a company, right? So those are the questions you have to be asking yourself, right? So the last thing I want to really take a look at is the free cash flow, right? So let me just find it. So free cash flow per share, right, went from $2.31 to $4.31, right? So you can see a double within this, how many years is this? This is 7 years, right? So if we take a look at a better number in 2022, right, you can see that it's 1060, right? So that is 2.5 times of the current number. So ask yourself whether things are going to get better, or are they going to continually get worse? Is China going to go to zero like all the YouTube videos that you see, right? So in my personal opinion, I don't believe China is going to zero in 30 days, right? So basically you have to ask yourself, right, is China going bankrupt in 27 days? CCP's plan is failing, so 15 trillion disappeared. So China won't rule the world, and no water in 24 days, right? So it's this kind of things going to happen. You have to ask yourself that, right? So now I want to mention one thing, which is currently about a third of Alibaba's market cap, right, is basically in cash, right? So if you take a look at the numbers, right, 69 billion of Alibaba's cash and short-term investments, right? So we can count that short-term investments are also cash, right? Because they are usually treasuries or stuff like that, right? Which is as good as cash, right? So 69 billion out of this 167 billion is in basically cash, right? So you are paying 100 billion for the whole business. So if you look back, and when it was about to IPO, was IPOing at about, I don't know, something ridiculous like a 200 billion market cap, right? So we can see how far Alibaba has fallen, right? So in my opinion, I think this is an opportunity of a lifetime, but I wouldn't go all in, right? Because at the back of my mind, there is always a risk that this could go to zero because of non-fundamental factors like VIE structure being invalidated or nationalization or things like that, right? So to me, it's a non-zero chance, right? But it's an incredibly low chance that I cannot just ignore because it's too cheap. In my opinion, the chances of those two things happening combined is below 1%, right? So with all the doom and gloom out there, I thought I'd share some perspective, right? Because it's one thing if you look at it and you think that, oh, the VIE structure is going to get invalidated or it's going to get nationalized. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, right? Just that, in my opinion, it's not a 0% chance, but it's also not a very high likelihood in my opinion, right? Because they are also opening up their books and things like that, right? So they do, to an extent, care that they have this kind of liquidity, unless you say that they're trying to pull more shares and money from, you know, the American public or something like that. Then the question to ask is, why wouldn't they do more secondary share offering, right? Sell some worthless shares to get real hard cash from the market and then rug pull even more money, right? So that is one side of the opinion, and the other side is you are thinking that these things are just getting cheaper and cheaper because people are thinking that, oh, China is not investable, so this maybe generates a buying opportunity for us, right? So that's about all I wanted to share today. If you did enjoy the video, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button, and comment below, right? What do you think? Is this an opportunity of a lifetime, or are we going to get rug pull and lose all our pants, right? So with that being said, have a fantastic day ahead and peace out.